Hello and welcome to our first tutorial video of Python and game development with Pygame library. Pygame is a platform for designing video games, easy video games, 2D video games with Python. It includes graphics and sound functions that will make your life easier if you're trying to create 2D games. We are on the official website of Pygame where you can find instructions on how to install Pygame in different operating systems, and I will leave the link to the getting started page on the description of the video. So in this series of videos we will create together a 2D game similar to the one that you can see in the start of the video, the car game. The first step, after we have already installed Python and Pygame on our computer, is to go to a file. You can use an IDE, idle if you prefer. I prefer to write on plain text, and we need to write our first line of code, which is to import our libraries. I will import those two basic libraries because those are the only ones that I will need in the start, at least for this video. So after we import our libraries, the first line of code that we need to write is Pygame init. We basically are calling a function which is the first thing that you have to do every time that you use Pygame. You have to call this function to initialize your program before you call any other Pygame function. So after we have called Pygame init, we need to start by creating our window. How we can do this? This we can do by calling the function Pygame display set mode. This function returns a display object, which is basically our window, that we will save to a variable. I will call it display. Inside the parentheses you need to set the dimensions of your window. For now I will just use 2 random integers. You can use whatever you want. Later we will replace those integers with constants because it's better to avoid using random numbers. We will discuss also later about this. So after we create our window, we will also set a title, a caption for our window. This you can do by writing Pygame display set caption and the string that you want to use as a title. I will use car game, with just those 4 lines of code we have created a window that will have the title car game and these dimensions. We will save this file as car.py. So now I will go from the terminal, will go to the folder that I have my file. I suppose that if you use an IDE this is easier, and I will run the instruction python carpy. I will basically run my program, and you can see that a window appeared. The window had the caption car game. Of course it disappeared immediately because there is nothing else to do. So after we created our window, we need to create a function, a game loop, that's how we will call our function, that will run and will keep this window open basically. So we will define a function that we'll call game loop. You can call it however you want, and inside there will be a while loop that will be an infinite loop, will run forever until we terminate our program. Inside, the first thing that we will do is check basically if the user wants to terminate the program. This can happen by calling the function Pygame event get, and this function allows us to interact with our program with pressing a button or by mouse clicking. And here we will say if an event happened, and if this event is Pygame quit, which means that basically someone clicked on the quit button on the top left of our window. We have to call the function Pygame quit, which is something similar with Pygame init. You need to call it in the end before you close your program. And system exits is exit to terminate our program. And also inside the infinite loop we need to write to call the function update, which will keep our window existing for all the time that we will not before we terminate the program. So we need to call this game loop function, and now if I run the program, you can see that we have a window that exists. It doesn't do nothing, it's a blank window, and I can close it from the expert. So with this we conclude today's tutorial. On our next video we will learn how to draw stuff on this window, and we will draw our screen and our car. So until next time, goodbye, and don't forget to like, subscribe and share this video. Hello and welcome to our second video. In the last video we learned how to create the window that will be the main window of our game. In this video we will learn how to draw stuff on this window, and we'll learn also how to interact with the window by pressing buttons on our keyboard. So first, I told you also last time that using integers, random integers like this when you call a function is not the best idea. So today we will replace those for the start with some constants that I will call window width and window height, and then inside the function, instead of writing the numbers, I will just write window width and window height. From now on, every size that we will create will be based on those two constants. So when you want to change your whole game, the size of your whole game, you just have to change those two numbers and everything will scale automatically. So then after this we want to start drawing stuff on our screen, on our window. First we will create a background for our window. On the background we will draw everything else. So by calling the function fill, display is our object, our window object, and we call the method of the object that is fill. And I will write white. I will explain. White doesn't exist, I will create it now. White is basically a tuple, which means 3 integers that will be for white will be 255, 255 and 255. So now I'm using the RGB system to describe numbers. That's how you describe numbers in Pygame. RGB system means red, green, blue system. You have 3 numbers. The first one describes red, the second one green, and the third one blue. White in this system is 255, 255, and 255. Black, on the opposite hand, is the exact opposite, is 0, 0, 0. All the numbers go from 0 to 255. So then, if you want to create a color like red, for example, you go 255, 0, and 0. If you want to create green, you go 0, 255, 0, and if you want to create blue, you go 0, 0, 255, 0, 0, 255. So for now those colors are enough. When we will if we need other colors, we will write them down later. So now with display fill white, what I basically did is just paint our whole window white. If I run now the game, something went wrong. I don't know what I did wrong. Yes, I didn't save. Okay, so if I run the game now, you can see that the window that before was black now is white. After this, we want to draw stuff on our window. We will use the function draw and rect, Pygame draw rect. This draws a rectangle on our window. This takes 3 arguments. The first one is the window, the second one is the color, I will make it black for now, and the third one is a list of 4 numbers. Those 4 numbers in the list will be the first 2 will be the position of our rectangle on the window, and the last 2 will be the size of our rectangle. So now I wrote some variables that I have not created yet. So char char x and char y are the first 2, and those I will set them, at least for now, as window width second divided by 2, window height divided by 2, which is a position around the middle of our screen. It's not exactly the middle, but we will discuss about it later. So this means that char x basically now is 400 and char y is 256, which is the half of 512. And char width and char weight, I will create constants. Char width, I will make it window width divided by 9, and char height, I will make it window height divided by 4. So now what I did is I created everything, the position and the dimensions of my car, based on the window width and the window height. So now if I just change window width and window height, everything will scale automatically. So with this function now, we're saying to our program to draw a rectangle on the display, on our window, black color, in this position, with these dimensions. And if I those have to be, it's better if they are before the update, so they happen in the start of the loop. If I save and I run now the program, you can see that I have a black rectangle almost in the middle of our screen. This point here is the middle of our window. So when you give the position, it's the position of the top left corner of your rectangle. So now after this, we would like to make our rectangle able to move based on the buttons that we press. So a button press for Python is an event. It's like Pygame quit, for example. So inside this for loop that checks for events constantly, we can go here and say elif. So if the event is not Pygame quit, but it is event type equals Pygame key down, this means that a button was pressed, and we check if this event key, which means the button press, was Pygame k left. This says to our program that if someone pressed the left button, the left arrow button, so this means that someone wants to move our car on the left. So car x, which is the position on the x basis, on the horizontal basis axis, has to change, and for now I will say car x make it itself -10. Else I will write elif again. Event key is now Pygame k right, which means if someone pressed the right arrow button, now make car x plus equals 10. So the same way, if you want to make it move up or down, you just you put another elif case, and you check if event key is Pygame k down or k up. So now if I save and I run this program, you can see that by the press of the left arrow I can move the rectangle towards the left direction or towards the right direction. It's not smooth, the movement, and also you have to repeatedly press the button. So this we will fix in the next video. For now, this was our second tutorial video. Until next time, goodbye, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Hello and welcome to our third tutorial video with Pygame, where we learn how to make an easy 2D computer game. In the last video we learned how to draw stuff on our main window. We drew a rectangle which will be the main rectangle of the game. Later we will replace it with a car, and we learned how this rectangle can be mobile based on the buttons that we press on our keyboard. So if I run the program that we wrote the last time, you can see that I can move this rectangle left or right with the press of some buttons on my keyboard. So today, first we will learn how to make this movement smooth and easier to control. So the problem was that in order to move the rectangle you had to press the button multiple times. So this can change with the creation of a new variable that I will call direction, and for the start I will set it to -1. -1 will represent left. I will write a comment, -1 comment, -1 is left and 1 is right, so I can remember it later. So now when someone presses the left button, this means that the direction will be set to -1 equals -1, and if someone presses the right button, the direction will be set to 1. So, and after outside of this for loop that we will continue after the check of the events, we have to check if the direction is -1, which means that we have to move the car towards the left. So now we'll say that car X has to be minus equal. I will create a new constant because before this we were using just an integer again. We were saying -10. I will create a step that I will set it to 5. So now if the direction is the left, move the car each frame, it will move the car towards the left. If the direction is 1, move the car towards the opposite direction, so car X will be plus equal step. So now I saved, and if I run it, I made a mistake here. Yes, you have to put double equals. If I run this now it's too fast, but you can see that I can move it and it moves continuously. I just have to press one time the button, but the step is too big as it seems, so I will change the step to just 1. This will slow it down 5 times, and now you can see that the direction is much more smooth. And if I want to go straight now, it's kind of problematic because I have to press both right and left. So instead I will I will check for another event, for the press of the up arrow button. If event key equals Pygame k up, this will set to our direction to 0, so this will not change at all our car X basically, so it will stay on the same axis, our car. So if I run it now and I press the upper button, it stays stable. If I press the left button, it goes to the right, left, but up keeps it stable. So now that we made the movement more smooth, it's time that we replace our rectangle with something that looks more like a car. So I have already created, in the documents I can find it, a picture called car PNG. I will move this inside the folder that I have my program. When you want to load images in a program, it's better that you have it in the same folder. So I have the file carpy and the image car.png in my folder. So now I can go to my program, and I can call the function Pygame image load with the name of my image inside the parentheses, and this returns an image object, so I have to save it somewhere. I will call this variable car, and then I can go here. We will no longer need this rectangle, and I will bleed to my screen with this function, display bleed, this image. So this function takes 2 arguments. The first is car, is the image, and the second is list a tuple with the position of the image. So this will be car X and car Y. And now if I run again the program, you can see that instead of the rectangle I have an actual car. I have the image of a car. I will leave a link down on the description where you can download the car PNG yourself. So this was the end of our third video. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and see you next time. Hello, welcome to yet another game development with Pygame video tutorial. This is our fourth video, and today we will talk about frames per second, and we will learn how we can create an infinite road that gives the illusion of movement to our game. The game loop function that we have already created in previous videos runs as fast as possibly our computer can run it. This means that images that are drawn to our window are drawn with a fast rate that depends on the performance of our computer. If I run the same game loop in my computer and if I run it in another computer later, it will run with different pace, different speed. This is something that we don't want. In order to change that, we need to use a method that will create a stable frame rate for our game loop. First, we will create a variable that we will be called FPS, frames per second, and I will set it to 30. Then we will need to write a new variable that we will call clock, and this is an object will be created with the use of the function Pygame time clock, which returns an object clock, a clock object. And this clock object now can use the method tick. So we will write clock tick, and inside you give an integer as an argument. We will give FPS. So now what we did is we with this method, with this instruction, we're saying to our computer to run this game loop 30 times each second. So every 1 second 30 different images will be drawn to our window. Now our video game will have a stable behavior independent of which computer we use. So if I run it now, you can see that now it's much more slow than it was before. This has to do with the fact that before was drawing as fast as it possibly could. Now it's not. So now in order to make the movement a little faster, I will change the step variable, the step constant that we had created in the previous video. And now if I run it again, we can see that the movement is faster, looks smooth. So we can continue with the rest of our today's video. So now what we want to do is create a road, draw a road to our window that will be basically our background where the car will move. The first thing that we have to do is bleed an image the same way that we bleeded the car image with this instruction. We will create a new image object with the method image load. In our folder I have put this road.png image, and I will load it inside my program using an instruction road equals pygame image load png. I will leave a link down in the description where you can download the exact same image that I have created and will be our background. So now what we have to do is, before bleeding our car, we have to bleed the road object, and the position, the coordinates of this image will be 0.0, because we want the top left corner of our image to be the top left corner of our window. So if I go now again and I run it, you can see that the car is on a road. The main problem now is that this road seems not moving at all. The car can be moving right or left, but the car on the road doesn't seem to move towards any direction. In order to achieve this, I will start drawing some rectangles on the road. We already saw how you can draw a rectangle. It's this line of code that I commented in the previous video, Pygame draw rect. The first argument has to be the window, the second is the color, I will use black, and the third argument is a list of 4 integers. The 2 first integers will be the coordinates of the top left corner of your rectangle, and the last 2 will be the size, the width and the height of your rectangle. I will create 2 new variables that I will call rect x and rect y, and rect x will be window width second divided by 2, and rect y will be 0. And now I will draw those rectangles here on the coordinates rect x and rect y. And the dimensions, for the dimensions I will create 2 new constants that I will call rect width and I will set it to window width divided by 32, and rect height I will set it to window height divided by 16. And now I will go to this line of code and write rect width and rect height. So now I will draw top of my window with these dimensions. If I run it now, you can see this rectangle, it's right here, and I want to continue to draw even more rectangles in this screen. In order to do this, I will write a for loop for I in range 0 to 8. I want them on the y-axis to be on the same x-axis, but I want the y coordinate to differ from rectangle to rectangle. So I will create a new constant that I will call y difference, and I will set it to window height divided by 8. And I will go here, and on the y coordinate of my rectangles I will write rect y plus I multiplied by y difference, y diff. So now if I run again the program, you can see there is a problem. My car is underneath the lines. This has to do with the order of the instructions. I have to bleed the car after this for loop. so now it will seem better. So now I have my road, but still it's not moving. How I can make this road moving? Since all of my rectangles have the y coordinate based on the first rectangle, if I move the first rectangle, every rectangle will move. So what I will do is I will go here and I will say that rect y plus equals step. This means that each frame rect y will change by step. Now if I run it, it will seem that like there is movement, but the rectangles disappear. So what I have to do to stop this is I will say that if the rectangle, basically rect y, is bigger than the y difference, you have to set it again to rect y. This can be simplified by saying rect y equals rect y modulus step, modulus y diff, not step. So now there seems to be movement. There is a small problem here in the start of my screen. It seems like always there is one rectangle missing. So for this reason I will change the range of this for loop to -1 towards 8. So the first rectangle, when rect y is 0, the first rectangle is not visible, but then it starts appearing to our screen. So now if I run it, will be perfect. Okay, so we created our road. We have this illusion that we wanted to have, the illusion of constant movement. And with this we will conclude our today's video. See you next time. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Hello and welcome to our 5th video of game development with Pygame. In the previous video we created the road on which our car is moving. In this video we will see how you can create other objects on the road, and we will create coins that the car should collect in order to gain points. You can see that I have already added an image coin.png inside my folder. You can find the link to download this image down on the description. The size of this image is 50 pixels width and 50 pixels height. After downloading and adding the image in your folder, you have to load it inside your program. This can happen the same way we load the car and the road, with the function Pygame image load, which returns an image object. I will go here and write coin equals Pygame image load coin.png, the name of my image file, and now I have this object that is an image. We will need now two variables that will be the coordinates of our coin. Those variables will be coin x and coin y. Coin x and coin y. In order to set those variables, I will need to use a function from the random library. First we need to import the library, so you go on the top of your program in the imports and you import also random. After this you can use the functions of this library, and we will use the function randRange. RandRange generates random numbers from a specified range. Takes 3 arguments: the start, the stop and the step. Coin x should be random and the range should be specified in a way that the coin will appear on the road and not on the grass that exists on the sides of the road. So I will set coin x to random rand range 0.2 times window width, which is the starting point, 0.8 times window width, which is the ending point, and step. And coin Y should be 0, because we want the coin at least to appear in the top of our screen. Oh, I made a small mistake. What is it? Invalid syntax, because this is not 0. Okay. After I set those two variables, I have to use the bleed function to draw the coin on the window. The same way that I'm drawing the car, I will go display bleed coin to the position coin X, coin Y. If I run now the program, you can see that there is a coin here on the top of your screen, on the top of our window, but it's not moving towards us with the road. It seems like it's moving the same speed that the car is moving. To change this, we have to make this variable coin Y move with the same increase with the same rate that the rectangles in the middle of our screen are increasing. So we will write coin Y step plus equals step. And now you can see that the coin is coming towards us. Now it disappeared. In order, when the coin reaches the end of our screen, to reappear, we have to add an if statement. Coin Y is bigger or equal than window height, which means that the coin now is outside the bottom of our screen, of our window. The coordinates now should be reset. So coin X should be again a random integer in this range, and coin Y should be set to 0. So now if I rerun, you will see that every time the coin reaches the bottom, a new coin will appear in the top of the screen. The next step is to find a way to understand if our car collected the coin. We will need to define a new function for this reason. I will call it check coin. Define check coin, which will take 4 arguments, basically the position of our car and the position of our coin. Now we have to understand when the car and the coin meet. I have drawn an image to explain this. Imagine that this rectangle is our car, this rectangle is our coin. This is again a rectangle that represents a coin. Those are the two positions that represent the edges, the limits where the two rectangles meet. When you draw a rectangle with Pygame, or when you bleed an image and you give coordinates, you give the coordinates of the top left corner of your image. In this position, coin X and car X have a difference of coin size. This is a difference of the coin size, 50 pixels in our case. So in order for those two rectangles to meet, car X minus coin X should be less than coin size, and in the other end, car X and coin X, this is the other limit, car X and coin X have a difference of car width. So coin X now minus car X should be car width. So we will add an if statement will be if car x minus coin x smaller or equal than coin size, and coin x minus car x is smaller or equal than car width. So now we know that on the x-axis they are meeting, but they have to also meet in the y-axis, in the vertical axis, and it's exactly the same way that you can understand that the if statement for the y-axis is the same if I change the x with y and the car width with car height. So car x minus car y minus coin y is smaller or equal than coin size, and coin y minus car y is smaller or equal than car height. In this case, the function should return true. True. In any other case, the function should return false. So now I will call this function in an if statement. I will say if check coin. So if our car and our coin meet, I will give the arguments car x, car y, coin x, coin y. In this case, in this scenario, what we should do, we should redraw our coin in the top of our screen. The coin should disappear and be redrawn in the top of our screen. And also we can create a points variable. I have already written it down. You can set it to 0, of course, in the start. And if our car collected a coin, the player should gain a point. So points plus equals 1. We can just for now print the points, so we make sure that this is working. Every time that you collect a coin, the points will be printed on your screen, on your terminal. I've made a mistake. I have written it check coin. It's check coin. Coin size is not defined. Yes. I need to create also a constant that will be called coin size. I will set it to window width divided by 16. And now you can see also on my terminal that every time that I collect a coin, a new number is printed and a new coin appears on the top of our screen. This is the end of today's video. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to share, like and subscribe. Hello and welcome to yet another game development with Pygame video tutorial. Today we will learn how you can write text on your window and how we can set some limits to the movement of our car so the player will lose if he exits the road. In order to write text on our window, first we'll call the function Pygame font. I will write it here. This function returns an object, a font object, takes two arguments. The first one is the font, the background that we want to load our font on. If you set it to none, it will be the default font of Pygame, and the second one is the size. Now on the variable small font we have saved an object, a font object. Then inside our game loop we need to draw text on this font object, and in order to do this we will call the method render. It's a method of font objects, and this method will return a text object, so I will save it in a variable called text equals small font, which is our font, render, and the render method takes three arguments. The first one is a string that will be the text that we want to draw. The second argument is a boolean value that activates or not anti-aliasing. We will set it to true for now. And the third argument is the color of our text. I will set it to black. Finally, we will draw the text object on our window with the blit method, the same way that you draw the images. Display blit text, comma, the coordinates that you want your text to be printed on. I will set them to 0 and 0 because I want the text to appear on the top left of my screen. So now if I run the game, made a small mistake here. Yeah, here I forgot plus. I'm casting points to a string and adding them to this string, so the text that we want to appear is score and the points of our player. Now if I run it, you can see that on the top left of my screen there is the score, that every time I gain a coin, I gain a point, increases. After this we will create some limits for the movement of our car, and when the car is off the road the player should lose. Hence we will create a new function that I will call check step out, and it needs one argument that will be car x. We want to know on the horizontal axis what is the position of our car, and I will write an if statement inside if car x is smaller than 0.1 times window width, or car x is bigger than 0.78 times window width. Those limits, 0.1 times window width on the left and 0.78 times window width on the right, I found them by experimenting for a while with different numbers and seeing where the car is on our screen. And for now, if the car is outside this range from 0.1 to 0.78, the player will lose, and for now losing will mean just that the game is closing. The game will close. Pygame quit and system exit. Now after I have written this function, we need to call it inside our code. I will call it here check step out car X. I will run it now, and if I exit the limit on the left, the game closes, I lost. If I exit the limit on the right, the game closes, I lost. The last thing that I will show you today will be how to load the sound inside our game. You can see that I have put in our folder the file it.ogg. Pygame, in Pygame you can load .ogg files. If you have files that are of a different extension, you should change them. You can find a lot of online converters. You should change them to .ogg. After you put the file inside your folder, inside your code you should call the function Pygame mixer sound. I will do it right now. I will write point sound, which will be the variable that the function will return an object, and this will be the variable that the object will be saved inside. Pygame mixer sound, and the name of our file. And after you load it, you can use the method play. So I will just go inside here, and for it returns the value true. We'll write sound, point sound, play. And now if I run the game, you can see that whenever I eat a coin, I collect a coin, sound is played. With this we will conclude today's episode. Don't forget to share, like and subscribe. See you next time. Hello and welcome back to yet another Pygame video tutorial. Today we'll learn how we can add some obstacles in our game, some cars that will be moving towards the opposite direction, and our player has to avoid them. We will use the image ink.png that I have added inside my folder. You can find the link to download this image down on the description of the video. The size of the image is the exact same size with the car PNG image. For this reason I will not need to create some new constants. Car width and car height are the dimensions of my new obstacle. I will need though to load it inside my game. We have used this method plenty of times, this function plenty of times. Ink equals pygame image load, and I will write the name of my image ink.png, the name of my file. So now I have an object, an image object. Then I will need to create two new variables that will be the coordinates of my obstacle. Those will be ink x and ink y, and I will use the exact same method, random rad range, and the same range with the coins, because it again should appear on the top of my screen and on the road, not on the sides. Then what I have to do is use the bleed method in order to draw the image on our window. Display.bleed ink x ink y. If I run now the program, you can see that in the top of my screen there is a car. It's not moving. We will fix this now. How we can change this? The ink y variable has to increase, and we will make it increase faster than the rectangles in the middle of our window and than the coin. So it seems like the car is coming towards us fast, it's moving towards us and is not stable on the road. So now you can see that the car was moving towards us, but it disappeared. How we can fix it? It's something we did also with the coins. We will check if inc y, if the y coordinate of our incoming car is bigger than the size of our screen, of our window height, we should reset its coordinates. Now if I rerun the game, we can see that when the car will reach the bottom, a new car has appeared immediately. Every time that the car reaches the bottom, new cars appear. Now the next thing that we need to do is check if our car, the car that we are controlling, crashed into the incoming car, because the point of the game is to avoid the incoming cars. For this reason I will create a new function that I will call car crash, that will take four variables, four arguments: car x, car y, inc x, inc y. The logic is exactly the same with the function check coin. We will try to understand if the coordinates of the two images are set in a specific way so the two rectangles meet. So instead of coin x and coin y, we will use now inc x and inc y, and instead of coin size we will use the dimensions of our car, which are car width and car height. So we will rewrite those if statements. If car x minus inc x is smaller or equal than car width, and on the right side inc x minus car x is smaller or equal than car width, and if car y minus inc y is smaller or equal than car height, and inc y minus car y smaller or equal than car height, if those two statements are both true, it means that our car has crashed. So this means that we lost the game. So I will do the same thing that I did with the step out function. I will just close the game. In a next video we will fix this. We will create some loose animations, some sounds and stuff like this. After we have created this function, we need to call it inside our code, car crash, and give the correct arguments: car x, car y, inc x, inc y. And now if I run the code, you see I crashed already. If I avoid the first one and I crash the second, every time that you crash the game closes. This was the end of our 7th video. In the next video we will create a menu and we will add some loose animations that will appear when our car crashes or steps out of the boundaries. Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to share, like and subscribe. See you next time. Hello and welcome to yet another video of game development with Pygame. In this video we will learn how to create a menu, a start screen that our user will see when he opens the game and before he starts playing. For this reason we will need to define a new function that I will call start menu. Will not take any argument, will be called in the start of our game loop. Inside this function we will need to draw a start screen, so we will start by filling our window with white. We will use the method display fill white, and then in order to write stuff we will need a new font. We had already created before a small font. I will create a bigger one that I will call menu font. We'll use again the font function with the default font but bigger size. I will set it to 48. And now, after I fill my screen with white, I will create two new text objects. The first one will be start, menu font, render, start game, true. This is an anti-aliasing, black color, quit, menu font, render, quit game. For now our menu will just have those two options, later we can add more, true and black. Now that we have the two objects, we need to use the bleed method again in order to draw these texts on our screen. Display bleed start. The position for the first string will be window width divided by 10 and window height divided by 10. And the position for the second one will be window width divided by 10. They will be on the same axis vertically, but will be more down. Will be 3 times window height divided by 10. And of course I forgot, the position has to be inside a tuple or a list. I have to put parentheses here and here. And after we have drawn our stuff on the window, we need to call the function, as always, the function Pygame display update. Now also inside this infinite while loop we need to keep checking for events. For event in Pygame event get. The first thing that we have to check is if our user wants to close the window. So if event type equals Pygame quit, we have to close it. We have to call Pygame quit and system exit, which will close our window. Inside our game loop we need to call this function start menu. And now let's see what we have done until now. If I run it, you can see that we have start game, quit game labels, but we cannot do nothing. We can only close the window, we cannot move on to the game. Now we need to check how we can make the menu actually work like a menu. So for this reason I will create a new variable that I will call point, and I will set it to 0 for the start. So if point is 0 equals 0, this means that our user wants to choose start. So if point equals 0, I will create an if statement. If point equals 0, start text will be red, and if point equals 1, we just have two options, 0 and 1. Quit text should be red and start text should be black. And now inside our event loop we'll add another event check statement. We'll add if event type equals Pygame key down if a key was pressed, and if event key equals Pygame k down I equals plus equals 1, elif event key equals Pygame k up I minus equals 1. We should decrease if the upper arrow button was pressed. Here after my event loop I have to set I equals I modulus 2 in order to keep I inside the values, the set of values 0 and 1. Now if someone chooses an option, he has to press the enter button. So I will add another case, elif event key equals Pygame k return, which is the enter button. Here it means that our user chose one option, so if he chose the option to start a game, if I equals 0, we will return true. This will just end our function, will return to the main game loop. Elif I equals 1, here I forgot 1 equals 1. This means that our user chose to quit the game, so we have again to do pygame quit and system exit. So if I run now the game loop, I made a mistake. Here I put I for some reason. I want to put point. Point and point. Wherever I put I have to replace it with point. Also here point and point. So now it should be fine. If I run it, you can see that I'm at the start game. I press the down arrow button, go to the quit game. I press the upper, I go to the start game. I press the upper, I go to the quit game. And if I press enter in the start game, my game starts. Closed because I crashed. If I go to the quit game, it closes immediately. With this we will conclude today's video. Today we'll learn how to make a menu for our game. Next time we will learn how we'll create a lose animation and the game over screen. Thanks a lot for watching our video. See you next time. Don't forget to share, like and subscribe. Hello and welcome to our 9th video tutorial of game development with Pygame. In this video we will create a game over screen that will appear if our player loses, and we will create an animation for our step out function. We will expand our step out function so the crash of the car seems more realistic. To start, we need in order to create the game over screen, we need to define a new function that we will call game over. And we need to draw stuff on a new window, so we will create a red background. We'll call the method fill red on our display window. And then we need to start writing stuff on the screen. For this reason, we will create a new font. I will call it over font, and I will call Pygame font. Again, I will use the default background. You can experiment with different backgrounds. I will always use the default, and I will set the size to 60. I want bigger letters on my screen. Now that we have our font, we need to create the text object. Inside here I will create two text objects. The first will be crust equals over font dot render, and write uCrust. The first message that will appear is uCrust, and I will set anti-aliasing to true and the color to black. Then the second text object will be game over. We'll use the same font, over font, and I will render game over. Again, through black. Now that I have the text objects, I will use the bleed method to draw them on the screen, and I will draw first crust and the position will be window width divided by 10, comma, window height divided by 10, and the position for the display, here I forgot to write bleed, display bleed. The position for the game over text will be window width divided by 10, comma, 5 times window height divided by 10. If you watched the last video, you are familiar with writing text on your screen already, and then after we need of course to call Pygame display update. Now we want our screen to kind of freeze for a while in this state. So for this reason we need to use the time sleep function. I need to import a new library. We'll import time library, and then I will call the function time sleep. Inside you give the argument of how many seconds you want the program to wait, so I will give 2, will be just 2 seconds, and then after we have drawn stuff on our window and wait for 2 seconds, I will call game loop. This will start our game again from the start, we will again call this function. That the first thing that we'll do is call the function start menu, and will send us to the start screen. So now at the check step out function, inside the check step out function, instead of Pygame quit and system exit, I will call game over. So now if our player loses, this function will be called. The same with car crash. Instead of Pygame quit and system exit, I will call again game over. Now let's check what we have done. We've done a mistake here, invalid syntax. Okay, here for some reason I put 2 parentheses. 1 is enough. Now if I run the game, I start, I will lose on purpose, and you can see you crashed, game over, and I'm again on the start game. If I lose again, the same thing happens here too. I will quit now. Now we can continue with the second part of the video, where we will create a crash animation that will occur when our check step out function is true. So we will change the step out function. We will make it return a boolean value. It will return true if our car stepped out, and otherwise it will return false. And we will go inside our game loop, and here, instead of just calling the function, we will create an if statement. We will say if check step out car X. In this case there are 2 possibilities. The first one is that the car is on the left side of our screen, so if car X is smaller than 0.1 times window width, this is the limit that we have also inside our check step out function. And what we should do in this case, I will create a for loop for I in range 0, 20, and inside this for loop we will draw again our window, and we will call the clock tick function 20 times inside the loop. So we draw 20 new frames. Those 20 frames will create our crash animation. In order to draw again our window, we'll do exactly the same that we have done already. I will copy everything from display fill white until display bleed text. Our screen will be exactly the same. Now I have to fix a little bit the position of my instructions. From here, all this code should be inside the for loop. Okay, what has to change in this screen is that first the position of our car will change this time. So car X, our car should move towards the left, so I will make car X minus equals step, and should move towards the upper part of our screen, so car Y minus equals step. And inside here I should call clock tick and frames per second FPS, and update my screen Pygame display update. And of course outside of the loop, of the for loop, should also call game over. It should be inside the if check step out car X, should be here. And now if I run the game, I start, if I go towards the left, you can see that our car lost control, went out of the road, but it didn't seem too realistic. In order to make it more realistic, I will try to rotate a little bit the image of the car, and this can happen with the instruction Pygame transform rotate, the function Pygame transform rotate. I will create a new variable, a new object, a new image object that will be new car equals Pygame transform rotate car, our previous image, and I will rotate this image 10 degrees each frame. And here, instead of bleeding the car object, I will bleed the new car object. Now if I run it again and I let the car go outside the road, you can see that it rotated a little bit, but it didn't rotate enough. It rotated only 10 degrees, because every time I rotate the car object here. In order to make it rotate more and more each time, I will add 10 plus 3 times I. Now the first time it will rotate 10 degrees, the second time 13, the third time 16, etc. Now if I run it, you can see that if I go on the left of the screen, the car lost control totally and the animation looks pretty realistic. Now we have to do exactly the same for the right side of our screen. So I will copy this. Again, the position of my instructions is a little not great. Okay, now I fixed it. But now this check should change to car X is bigger than 0.78 times window width. This is the other edge of our screen, is the same check that we made inside the check step out. So if we are on the right side of our screen, what we should change now, car X should increase, because we want our car to move towards the right side, and also the rotation of the car should be minus, should be the exact opposite of before. So I will say minus 10 plus 3 times I. And now if I run it and I go outside the right side, we seem to lose control from the opposite side of the road, and the animation looks quite good. This will conclude today's video. Next time we will add some more sounds and fix some more small details, and probably the next video will be the last video of this series. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to share, like and subscribe.